Yeah. Welcome back, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the Kaia Ra Daily Transmission. Today is our Friday Q&A. Feel free to introduce yourself in the live chat. Say hello to your community members. It's so good to be back with you. How you all doing today? um, I've got on my phone here our question for the day. And hi, good morning. So good to see everybody. Good morning, Melinda. Hi, Ashley. I'm out here in my backyard. Good morning. So our question for today, I was so moved when it came in. The reason why my team angels chose this question today is because we had a lot of similar questions coming this week. Hi. Because of this topic of Mother Mary asking us to open our hearts and to keep them open during these extraordinary times. And that's not Mother Mary deeply, truly, sincerely understands the depth of what she's asking when she's guiding us to open our hearts in this way, and to not only open our hearts, keep our hearts open and continue to expand our hearts. It's a really big ask. And we're just the angels for the job, right? Like, we're just the souls that were willing enough, strong enough, brave enough, powerful enough to come and participate in this global awakening worldwide through the power of our open hearts. So, again, today's question is connected to several questions that we received, and we love receiving all of your questions, and we do our best to answer what we can. And one of the things that we do as a team is we look at, where's a similar thread? What are multiple people feeling? Because I, because what we've discovered is if 3 to 5 questions or emails come in, there's probably many more people feeling or thinking the same thoughts or having the same kind of questions. And so we bring those questions in together as one, so that we can address the collective to the best of our ability to support our collective growth. So today's question was really moving for me, and it was again a compilation of many questions, but one in particular inspired us to start digging deeper. And the question was, what do you do when you're afraid to listen to your own heart? And I'm just taking a moment to pause. What do you do when you're afraid to listen to your own heart? Because my heart is filled with compassion when I hear a question like that. Because I think, and I know, and I feel universally, I think everyone feels this way at different times. If you have ever felt afraid to listen to your own heart, feel free to share in the chat or in the video replay, like, that you can relate, that you know what that feeling feels like, to be afraid of your the very own heart that's beating in your chest. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today in Q&A. But if you can resonate with that, if you know what that feels like, yeah, just witnessing so many people in the chat saying they can relate to that feeling of being afraid of your own heart. And isn't this interesting that multiple questions came up about this week, when Mother Mary has, and her teachings and her fiery transmissions this week have been asking us to burn through, to really recognize and be willing to face our fears about being in a relationship with our own heart, which is, the portal, the gateway for our creative genius. It is the threshold, it is the inspiration, it is the beacon of our most articulate and authentic communication. The heart it's the center of our very being, and it's at the center for a reason. So what are we really asking when we say, how can I not feel afraid of my own heart? We're saying, how can I feel a whole lot less fear about who I really am, which is love? How can I come into alignment with the true power that I am at the center of my heart? Because the heart is the throne for the higher self consciousness. It's not the crown chakra, it's the heart. The crown is the gateway where your higher self descends in and rests within the heart and grows as a radiant star of light, your soul star, like a sun in the sky, but it's in the center of your being, and those rays of light literally extend all the way down through your earth chakras, down your legs, and connects you to the center of the earth. And those rays of light raise up and rise up and extend out through your heavenly chakras, and it fills out that circle of empowerment with your own radiant Sophia Christ consciousness. I'm looking at some of these comments in the chats. Taryn is sharing. Taryn's one of our team angels. If you ever have any questions about our upcoming events or curriculums, you can get on the phone with Taryn or Ashley Phoenix. Taryn's sharing. It can feel terrifying and liberating all at the same time. Pam is sharing. I too can relate, feeling afraid of her own heart. My heart is open to all possibilities. Oh, I love how genuine our community is, how heart-centered our community is. It's so reassuring to me that we can be this honest about what it feels like to connect with our hearts, that it can bring up some fear. So, first of all, I want to address this question with another question. How much were you encouraged to learn about your feelings and your own heart growing up? How much did you hear in school? How much validation did you hear in your school or in your church or from your family or your relatives or your community? I mean, you might have been one of the lucky ones that, was raised in an enlightened society, but how much focus was really placed on learning the language of your heart? Tanya's writing in, none at all. Yeah, so is Maranth is saying, sadly, not at all. Donna Wesley, not much at all. Jojo says never. Pam says none. It's just like, yeah. We haven't received an education in the language of our own heart from the very beginning of life. But what could be more important than learning the language of your own heart? It's at the very center of your being. It's at the very center of your body. It's what's keeping you physically alive, but also it is the very center of your emotional life. And what's interesting is, like, we're not given an education of how to navigate and understand that the emotions we feel, the emotions that we experience every day, all day long, are a language as well. How many people were taught that your emotions were a language that you could listen to when you were growing up? I certainly wasn't. I was told and taught that if I tapped into my feelings, that there would be some pretty serious consequences for that. So my question back to you isn't to be a downer. It's not to bring us down. It's to bring forward a revelation, a realization that we often minimize the impact of the lack of education that our society is built upon. Our society is not built upon a clear educational system for how to learn how to be human. That's what we're doing every day. We're learning how to be human, how to walk around with these big hearts that feel everything all of the time. Instead, our society, our school systems, and many religions teach us how to shut down, repress, and judge being human, having a heart, having all of our feelings. So when we mentor with Mother Mary in the Sophia Code, and when we connect with all of these ascended masters, what they are inviting us to do is to begin a direct connection to our source, re-education about learning the language of our own heart, valuing the journey of being human, learning how to let go of our very trained mechanisms of doubting ourselves, judging ourselves, sabotaging ourselves, by disconnecting from our heart, by minimizing our emotions. So I bring up this question as in return to this question of why do I feel afraid of my own heart? It's because you were programmed to feel afraid of your own heart by so much that is upside down and inside out, literally inverted in this matrix. And this is why we mentor with the Ascended Masters and discover how to connect with our higher self-consciousness, which returns us back to God's perspective, source perspective, your divine perspective about the truth of your heart. The truth of your heart is constantly and ever only speaking to you from a loving place. And when the feelings and emotions and even traumas arise connected to the heart, we can learn how to listen to the language of the heart, sharing with us what those feelings mean, how we're being guided to bring greater healing and attention and love to those places and spaces within our own heart. Our heart is always communicating to us as well where we are wanting to be empowered next, where we are wanting to explore our power, our creativity next, where we want to make new and different choices that may feel vulnerable or not safe to traumatized parts of ourselves, but to our heart actually feel really safe. It's like the adventure of exploring a greater expansion into love and creativity and communication and new choices. So the reason why we feel afraid of our own hearts is, number one, we've been traumatized by this world. And it's better to just call it out like that, just to be clear about it. Like, if you're here on earth, it's a traumatic experience. There are many things to heal from choosing to come and have this human experience. And if you came here to earth, there's also the extraordinary opportunity to experience the power of divine love to heal all wounds, not just some, but all. And the power of divine love, this consciousness that already exists within you, that is source consciousness, that power of divine love that can guide you back into a cognizant, clear, and empowered relationship with your own heart, where you can learn how to feel safe in your own body, because your heart is going to educate you as to how to listen to it and respond to life through its perspective, not through a misunderstanding about what your emotional spectrum means. When we do not understand that our emotions are actually bringing information, messages, and guidance to us, we can often feel victimized by the very emotions that we feel every day. Have you ever experienced that? If you have, feel free to share in the chat. Maybe you have felt a certain level of terror or anxiety or anger or confusion that was so disorienting, it might have felt like you even just popped right out of your body, because the emotion just felt so big that it may have felt challenging to actually understand what that emotion was revealing to your mind, right, to your human awareness. And we're getting some confirmation here in the chat, so you're not alone if you feel that way. There are plenty of people that can relate to feeling overwhelmed or even victimized by your own feelings. Now, what happens is when we don't understand that these feelings are pointing to information about our human journey, about where we're growing next, about what we're learning, about what we're ready to release, we begin to blame the heart This is why we don't think it's safe to trust our heart. We begin to blame our own hearts because the heart is a biofeedback, not just the electrical biofeedback that's keeping your blood pumping. It's an emotional biofeedback organ that is sharing with you the feeling of the information that's coming into your awareness. So it almost feels like if your heart's in pain, it feels like you're being attacked by your own heart. That's not what's happening. Your heart is communicating to you the pain that you need to be present to. Right? If your heart is feeling the feeling of fear, your heart is not doing that to you. Your heart is translating. There's an anxiety or a fear here that needs to be consciously addressed through your presencing with it, through a loving dialogue. So, is this starting to land within you that there's the heart often, your own heart often unconsciously gets blamed because it is a feeling apparatus. But when we understand that feelings are pointing us to the intelligence of your body, the intelligence of your soul, these are messages, these are pointers. They point us to what's next. They point us to what we're releasing. They're pointing us to what we want to explore next. They're pointing us to where we want to be brave next and creative next. Like, I'm about to go jump on a horse in about a half hour. It's just like, that's where my heart is leaping up and ready to have a break from work and have some adventure. My heart's feeling joyful about that. But there's been days when I've gone to go be with the horses, and there's been an anxiety that my heart's felt. Is that about the horses? Is that about my heart being broken or not working correctly? It's like, no, there's just information that changes, even on the same subject matter, day by day. Your heart is genius. It's literally always talking to you through these feelings. But it takes the practice, as Mother Mary shares with us, in listening to your heart to slow down the judgment. Heart, you're attacking me, heart. You're feeling too much, right? That's the programming of our society, right? That's the lack of education from our culture that wants to minimize our feelings and squash the divine feminine principle of knowledge and wisdom being transmitted through the feeling body, right? Where every time we slow down, every time we open to listening to what these feelings, what our heart is sharing through that feeling mechanism, and we slow our roll and ask, what are you sharing with me right now? Sadness? What are you sharing with me? Fear? What are you sharing with me? Excitement? What are you sharing with me? Happiness? There's a somatic truth that is radiating from your heart that when you learn how to slow down and affirm to yourself, to every part of your consciousness, that it is actually the safest place to start listening is to the voice of your heart. You're going to grow your own feelings of safety day by day when you discover that your heart is on your own team. The heart is the very center of your team. Your heart is not only attempting to get you in harmony with yourself, but you in harmony with everyone else that wants to be in harmony with you. So we are, in answer to today's question, why am I so afraid of my own heart? It's like we've been taught to be afraid of our own heart. We've been programmed to fear the power of our emotions, the information, the divine feminine intelligence of our emotions. We've been, honestly persecuted and minimized in how much information we're receiving through our bodies. We're told to check out of our bodies and to only be logical. And it's like the most logical thing you can do is to listen to your heart and to learn the language of your heart. And so this is why I gave birth to the Soul Power curriculum journey that we did last year, which is It's available on my website at kaira.com. It's an extraordinary journey, and it's the journey of learning how to listen to the language of your heart and to get inside of some very challenging emotions that may have been throwing you off course for years of your life. And you may have felt as though you didn't have the tools or the resources to really come into a relationship with the full spectrum of your feelings. And this is honestly, I think, it's one of our most powerful programs in the mystery school. And it's also, I think, one of the most challenging curriculums for people to say yes to. And it's not for the reason why they think they're challenged to say yes to it. I know in my heart it's because this particular curriculum, this soul power journey, is such a profound invitation for coming into a clear relationship with your own heart and your own power that most people feel intimidated by that on an unconscious level. So what happens is in the soul power journey, we broke it into several, I'm going to read these classes. It teaches you how to be in a conscious and empowered relationship. The first class, terror, fear, numbness, and paralysis. I mean, holy moly. Like, talk about why we might feel afraid of our own hearts. When your heart feels terrified, when your heart feels paralyzed or numb, that's going to feel like your heart's attacking you. But what if you were in a relationship with fear and fear didn't have to control your relationship with your heart? What if fear and even like terror could reveal to you places and spaces within your life that really want your attention? Not to necessarily run away from. Maybe it's time to leave a situation that's terrifying, but maybe it's time also to step into a space of empowerment in a subject area of your life that has felt like your heart has been held hostage. It's like that class is all about recognizing the language of your heart so that you can move forward with the information that fear is bringing to you and not be held hostage to the past. So other topics that we address is anxiety, hypervigilance, shame, and self-sabotage, right? Shame as a construct of as a weapon of the ego structure. It's not even a real emotion. That was one of the biggest revelations of the soul power journey. That was actually kind of shocking for me to channel that coming through. It was so special to share that with our community. Anger, rage, grief, sadness, and codependency. So this is why we're afraid of our hearts, is because we don't usually have this kind of an education to understand that these feelings that our heart has the power to feel is actually connected to the information that these ostracized emotions are constantly offering us. Fear, anger, terror, anxiety, even sabotage, they're not our enemies. They're actually these teachers. They're actually messengers. Don't shoot the messenger, and certainly don't shoot your own heart. That's the vehicle of the message. That's what the soul power journey shares with our community, is how to come into this very empowered relationship with these emotions that usually knock us out of our center, that can actually be vehicles for bringing us so much into our center that we walk in such a sovereign and creative way in life that we become completely new people. And I was so inspired and so moved by this question and all the questions that were similar that came in this week. I told my team angels, he said, I know how powerful this program is, and we need to put this on sale this weekend, because this is obviously so needed at this time. A very easy yes to these curriculum materials that our community members, obviously we have new people that didn't even know what this curriculum is about. So if you're interested in learning more about the soul power curriculum, you have questions, feel free to reach out to my team angels. They're here in the chat. You can reach out to them at contact@kaira.com, at my website. And, it's just my great privilege and pleasure to be able to offer that at this time, because we just don't have the time to be held hostage by a lack of education, an overabundance of trauma worldwide. Like, we need these tools for engaging intelligently with our own hearts, for understanding the language of our hearts, and for really feeling supported and upheld, that we can learn that these emotions are here, everything, but especially the emotional spectrum that God gave us is here to support us. It's not here to work against us. But if we don't understand how that emotional spectrum is communicating to us every day, of course it's going to be confusing and painful and even downright, it could even make us feel really angry because we don't have the tools that we need. So I really want to make that tool available to you. And we'll be sending out an email. If you're on my list, you'll get the email about that this weekend. And I want to thank each and every one of you for such a special week connecting with Mother Mary. This has been a big week for me personally, connecting with Mother Mary. And I want to say thank you for being a part of my journey of constant evolution with the Ascended Masters, because we're on this journey together. And as I get to show up to these KR daily transmissions and connect with you live and feel your joy and your questions and your growing pains, like I'm going through my own joy and growing pains and my own vulnerable edges here, both here on YouTube with you, and also in my business and in my journey as an artist and a writer. And it's just so special that I get to be here with you. Thank you for being a part of my journey. Thank you for being a part of our journey as a team, all of our team angels. We just love you all so much. And we're so looking forward to being with so many of you in Austin that can make it. And I just thank you. Thanks for a great week together. Thank you for opening your heart. Thank you for leaning into those edges. Thank you for connecting with Mother Mary, mentoring with her in new ways, returning to the Sophia Code teachings this week. And I invite you to really ask yourself, be curious how you can listen to your own heart communicating to you through all of those emotions this weekend, like being a little slower to judge yourself for what you're feeling and a little more willing to love those edges within you, and discovering what kind of spaces that opens up for you to be able to recognize and integrate the voice of your heart, your precious, beautiful heart. So thanks, everyone. It's been such a great week. We'll see you back on Monday for the KR Daily Transmission. Mwah! All my love to you. Namaste.